Okay, we're here in St. Clair County, Alabama, and this is Jonathon Horsley. He's the lead singer and founder of Celtic Confederate. And Jonathon, appreciate you talking with us today.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
You want to tell us a little bit about your family? I understand that this is your family land. They've lived here in this part of Alabama for a long time.
Right. Well, my second great-grandfather, who was the son of my Confederate ancestor, he moved to Branchville, Alabama to work in the mines over in Margaret, Alabama. And his son, which was my great-grandpa, also worked in the mines, but then the mines shut down and they tried farming, but they weren't successful growing hardly any crops other than corn and a little bit of cotton. So you know, if you got a family to feed and all you're growing is corn, you know, you got to improvise. So they made corn liquor.
Yeah.
And
that's a noble tradition there, the moonshiner.
Right. And they were just like my Confederate ancestor. They were at war with the feds too. So
yeah,
you know, the revenuers was always out here in these woods. But my great-grandpa Dave Horsley owned land spanning from Odenville, Alabama, across Branchville, Alabama, to Margaret, Alabama. And you know, I've got Horsley family that lives down the road. My grandfather's second cousin and all his kids and grandkids live down the road. My family has lived here a while, but
how many hundreds of years they lived here, you know?
I'm not specifically sure. I think George, my second great-grandfather, moved here in the late 1800s or early 1900s. So
but your Confederate ancestors were obviously here a lot longer than that.
No, my Confederate ancestor didn't live in here in Branchville. He lived over in Springville, which is probably 20 miles away.
Okay.
On Pine Mountain. But they hadn't been settled there long. They came from Carroll County, Georgia.
Okay.
There's a lot of Horsleys that still live in Carroll County, and we're related to them. Just about every Horsley in America we're related to.
That's the northern part of Georgia?
Northwest Georgia, right.
The southern Appalachians up there.
It is, yeah.
Is your family, are they Ulster Scots, or what's the background of your family?
Well, my grandfather, Jake Horsley, always told me we're Irish. And my grandma and my mother and my grandpa would tell me that my grandpa's grandma or great-grandma was full-blooded Indian, Cherokee Indian.
That's common in the Appalachians.
Right.
To have some Indian ancestry.
Right. Where we live here, this isn't technically the Appalachians. This is the foothills of the Appalachians. But considering that, you know, they say we're Irish and we're Protestant, most likely we're not Catholic Irish, we're Scots-irish.
Yeah.
So, and my grandmother tells me the same thing, you know, we're Irish.
Right.
But I believe also on that side they may be English because they carry the surname Weaver.
Alright, Jonathon, your music involves a lot of Southern themes. So what does it mean to be a Southerner for you? What is Southern identity all about? Well,
Southern people have their own culture separate from other cultures in the world, particularly Northern culture. We have different beliefs, different values, different ways of living. You know, a lot of the stereotypes in Northern culture is that they're progressive, fast-paced. Southerners are more laid back. You know, they take their time about things, unless you go to the city, of course.
Right.
But one of the important parts of being a Southerner, or being raised as a Southerner, is being around your grandparents, being raised by older folks, not necessarily a grandma and a grandpa, but a mama and a papa. There's a big difference, right? So, I mean, you know, when I grew up, I was always at my grandparents' house, and my grandpa's sister lived next door. So it was like I had two grandmothers, and then I had three of my grandfather's first cousins that lived next door, Pete, Joe, and Charlie Thrasher, and so I had three more grandpas there.
So for you, it really involves a lot about family.
Right, right, yeah. And it's the way they raise you. You know, you're taught values and morals, taught to honor the land, you know, and to respect people, manners, you know. Right. So
that is something that we sadly see disappearing from our world around us.
Right, and the reason why a lot of young kids today don't have manners is they weren't raised by a mama and a papa. Yeah. And their own parents hardly even raise, you know, those kids. They throw money at them and send them off to school, but when they come home, what did they teach those kids? Yeah. And that's the important thing about Southern culture is traditionally we believe in, you know, the concept it takes a family or a village to raise a child, or in this context it takes a whole clan to raise a child.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, I like the clan analogy there, yeah. Right. So it doesn't sound so much like Hillary Clinton.
They got it made, only a rank was gave to me. And if I make it out alive, how will I help my kids survive as a helpless amputee? Raised my mama in Alabama. My daddy was a redhead man. He fought for Texas. My brother died in Gettysburg, and they buried him. Hell, I ain't heard it's been so long ago since I've left home.
Preserving Southern culture has a lot to do with preserving our rights and our beliefs, our values, individual liberty. I mean, you know, Southerners fought for states' rights, and the reason for fighting for states' rights is, you know, you're fighting for individual liberty. Yeah. Right. Okay. And when we lost our states' rights, we lost a lot of our individual liberty, and I think, you know, northern and southern, conservative, liberal, whatever you are, people on both sides will agree to that. Yeah. That we've lost a lot of our liberty. Well, you know, the South traditionally believed in a agricultural economy. Right. And and Southerners are rural people, and you can't be rural people without being raised up on the land, farming the land.
Yeah.
And so my great-grandpa, my second great-grandpa, my grandpa, they were all farmers. And you know, when you put that work into the land, that creates certain character in that individual.
Sure.
Southern character. But when you spend your time walking around city streets,
yeah,
you know, being a journalist, or you know, never having, you know, pushed a plow or anything, or even today never having gone out in the woods and gone hunting, or skinned a catfish, never even really, you know, picked up a shovel and dug a hole in the ground, you know.
Yeah.
That, you know, that can alter somebody's character if they're missing out on a lot of that. So. Sure.
You think that these values that you talk about, family, the land, your beliefs and heritage, that comes through in your music? Do you make a conscious effort to incorporate these in your music, or does it just kind of come into it, or what would you say?
I guess I'll say it doesn't come through consciously. If anything, just spiritually and intuitively. I'm an intuitive musician, or actually, more specifically, I'm a feeling type musician. You got thinking type musicians, and you got feeling type musicians. People who play based on how they feel, other people who play based on how they think. I'm a very spiritual person, and so I don't really do a lot of thinking about my music.
Yeah.
I just let it come through my soul, you know. So that answers your question there.
Yeah, it does. Questions that were sent in by a friend of mine, Terry Warren. He's also a Southern musician.
Yeah, I listen to his music. I like his music. Yeah.
He's a great fellow. Well, he has asked some questions for you. He wanted to know why you chose this particular genre.
Okay, why I chose this genre?
Yeah.
Well, see, I was working on industrial music and rock music before I even began this genre, and you know, all that electrical equipment to make industrial music or rock music is expensive. You know, if you look at what I have here, all I have is this portable studio.
Right.
And you got to buy a synthesizer, keyboards, all these electric foot pedals, amplifiers, all this electrical equipment to make that kind of music.
Right.
And it's not just one thing that led me to making what I call this Confederate rock influenced folk music. It's not one thing that led me to making this music. Well, let me finish there.
Yeah. Finish your thought.
Now, so instead of buying all that electrical equipment, I said, well, you know, I'm just going to buy a bunch of folk instruments, because you don't need all this electrical equipment with folk instruments. So I got me a banjo, and as soon as I bought the banjo, I wrote my first song, St. Andrew's Flag. Right, it's a great song. Yeah, and you know, I'm not a banjo picker, but I did prove, hey, I could play banjo a little bit. So as time went on, I kept buying all these folk instruments. I got a mandolin, I got the dobro here, or resonator, whichever you want to call it. I got a mandolin, strum stick, and Native American flute. I don't know if I mentioned that, and some harmonicas. Yeah. And So that's one reason, only one reason why I started making this genre of music. Another reason is this album right here. It's actually a double album set, White Mansions and the Legend of Jesse James, which was written by a man named Paul Kennerly, an Englishman who at one time was married to Emmylou Harris from Alabama.
Oh, really?
Country artist, yeah.
Huh.
And this was produced by Glenn Johns, who also was a producer for the Eagles. This album was recorded by artists such as Waylon Jennings, Johnny Cash, Eric Clapton on guitar, Levon Helm, Emmylou Harris, Charlie Daniels, Roseanne Cash, and the list goes on.
Would you say that these were influencing music a lot, these particular people, or this particular album?
Well, the people and the album.
Yeah.
Because I was already a fan of Waylon Jennings and Charlie Daniels.
Sure.
Artists like that. But this album, I just love this album.
Huh.
White Mansions and the Legend of Jesse James. It came out in the 70s, 1978 and 1972.
Okay.
The first album is gray, and the second album is red, and it's got a booklet in it. He was an Englishman. You could tell he was a Southern sympathizer, and he loved Southern people, but you could also tell he didn't read the right books. He was reading a lot of Northern propaganda books.
Yeah.
But
wow.
You could tell what was right here inside of that guy, and that's why I love this album.
That's cool.
But along with this album, I guess there's many other artists who've influenced me to make this kind of music, but I guess the one other main musical influence would be the Marshall Tucker Band.
Okay, yeah.
And so
fellow South Carolinians there.
I love Marshall Tucker.
Huh.
So what other questions you got for me?
Yeah, he also wanted to know, well, you answered the second one. How about how you've been received? Do most of the people who enjoy your work, they live around here in Alabama, or is it regional, or even international, or what?
Actually, it's interesting because I think I've had more Yankee customers than Southern customers.
Mm-hmm.
And basically what you call those people, those Yankees, are Southern sympathizers.
Yeah.
They, if they buy a Confederate album like that, they got to have something up in here. They're probably on the same page with us in regards to their beliefs and ideals and their values.
Yeah, they're not all bad up there north of the Mason.
Not all of them. I don't even know if I like to refer to those specific people as Yankees. Maybe Confederate Yankees, maybe Billy Reb, or Southern sympathizers.
Yeah, I just call them Northerners, but yeah, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. But just plain out Yankees, I'm not really fond of. So.
Well, you said that you first got your a banjo, I believe. Is that right? Is that the first instrument you learned to play?
No. Well, that was the first instrument I wanted to learn to play.
Yeah.
But my dad bought me a guitar. And what I wanted to play on guitar was Spanish music, Spanish guitar music, because I grew up. The two genres of movies that I grew up watching were war movies, mainly Vietnam War, and Western movies.
Yeah.
And in the Western movies, you got a lot of the Spanish Western music.
Yeah.
Especially on the Clint Eastwood films, my favorite actor.
Oh yeah, and those were the spaghetti westerns. Those were shot in Spain.
In Italy, all except for Josie Wales.
Yeah.
I think some of that was shot actually in California, Utah, and Texas. I learned that because I watched it last night. But
those are great stuff.
Yeah.
How about you also said that you wanted to originally play industrial type music. Have you been influenced by any of that?
Yeah. Really no particular artist. There's maybe a few industrial artists that I've been influenced by, but they're so extreme opposite of Southern people that I'm not even going to mention their names.
Yeah.
I listen to all sorts of various music.
Yeah.
And I overlook the artist and I listen to the music. And a lot of times people may say, well, how could you listen to those lyrics? Really, it's not necessarily the lyrics. It's the music and the melody. They
Sure.
could be saying something completely different, and I still like it just as much. But
Yeah.
I love music like some people like their drugs or something. You know?
Yeah.
Music is my drug. So.
What about like going into the future, going forward? What kind of plans do you have? Are you going to continue with this particular genre, or what's your plans?
Definitely. I'm always going to make this particular genre this. Well, right now it's like I said, it's rock influenced folk music.
Yeah.
But I also want to do a traditional cover album of Confederate music. And there's a country album I want to make. I've been working on some country songs. I mean, I'm talking about songs that are more like 90s country.
Okay.
And as a matter of fact, Confederate Railroad's coming to my town, this small town here in Branchville, this year, June 18th, 2011, which is the day before Father's Day. Maybe I can, you know, get a CD to them or something, you know, make friends with them. Actually, Steve Dempsey, who's with the Southern Heritage Music Association, I think he played with them a little bit, if I'm not mistaken.
I went and saw them back in the 90s when I was in back in high school. It's pretty interesting, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. I'll have to cut this part.
But to let me finish my answer there.
Yeah.
Also this year, I'm going to make an album. I plan to release an album. It's just myself playing one acoustic guitar. And so it's acoustic music, but it's kind of experimental.
Okay.
It's beautiful music, but I may try to weave some Confederate influence into that music there. But I plan to make all kinds of various sorts of music, but I'm always going to make this Confederate folk music. So.
All right.
Ready? She drifted off to another place as her body went cold and a river ran down his face. Well, he fought the North, but he could not fight her place. He said, I love you, why did it have to be your life? I offered to give mine for the one taken away. museum bike ride, I'm going to have on my Confederate uniform, but I'm going to pull this out. You know, jaws might drop when they see this. Look at that thing, you can see right through it.
That's pretty cool.
Check out the headstock.
That's pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
And your first album, you have for sale on your website, and I bought a copy and have been enjoying it for a couple months now. The first song on it, St. Andrew's Flag in particular, I think is a really great song, and a lot of people are familiar with that.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about that song.
Okay, St. Andrew's Flag. Well, it kind of starts. I was working as an electrician back in 2007.
Yeah.
And I got stressed, and I told myself, you know, what am I going to do in life? I didn't want to be an electrician.
Yeah.
So I got stressed. I quit my job. You know, I wanted to do something that was important to me, and important to my cause. You know, if I do something, I want it to be for things that are important to me. You know, so I quit my job as an electrician. Maybe that wasn't a good idea, but I did it anyways. And then, because I was so stressed, I actually wrote my first song, which was St. Andrew's Flag.
Yeah.
And technically, the Confederate battle flag on, you know, in documentation, technically is not the St. Andrew's Flag. But if you look at it in a practical manner, okay, they didn't want to use the St. George's flag as the common battle flag, right?
Right.
Okay, so it's just ironic that they used the St. Andrew's cross, the St. Andrew's flag, even though they didn't call it that. They just called it a saltire.
Well, that's what the Scottish flag is referred to sometimes also.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and
so
if you think about it, the St. George's flag is English.
Right.
The St. Andrew's flag is Scottish.
Yeah.
Majority of the southern population during the war were what?
Yeah, they were Scottish or Ulster Scots. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay, so you know, to me it's the St. Andrew's flag.
Right.
And a lot of those soldiers probably looked at it in the same manner. It's the St. Andrew's flag. And even this Alabama state flag here, technically, it is the St. Andrew's flag.
Sure.
It may look like the St. Patrick's flag of Ireland, but this is the St. Andrew's flag. And I like that it can relate to both flags, St. Patrick's and St. Andrew's.
Right.
But
bring in both traditions.
Right. So that's I guess that's the story about that song, St. Andrew's Flag.
I like that song because it you know, the message is classical, you know, but the music sounds very modern, you know, at times. I like how you combine those two.
Right, yeah. I mean, it's modern times, you know. I wear a Confederate uniform in the year 2011, you know.
Yeah.
This isn't 1860, so we mixed the old with the new.
Yeah.
And I wanna attract people who listen to contemporary music. I want to attract them to more traditional music. It's sort of a conversion. If you get people who listen to rock music, if you get them to listen to Celtic Confederate, hey, they may start listening to Unreconstructed or somebody of that nature, you know, more traditional Confederate music, if you see what I'm saying.
Right. Well, we definitely have to reach the young people today, and the traditional music, while I love it, is not going to appeal to everyone.
That's true, that is true.
Yeah.
That's true.
How about the song He Became a Priest? What's that about?
He Becomes a Priest is kind of like a Western movie, you know, like we was talking about before, Clint Eastwood Westerns.
Right.
It's about a Catholic Confederate. It's not about myself. It's about a Catholic Confederate who was first in the U.S. Army before the war began, and he was fighting down in Texas against Juan Cortina, who was fighting for control of, you know, southern Texas. So the Catholic Confederate fought in the U.S. military against Juan Cortina in the Cortina Wars. And then when the war for Southern independence, or the war between the states, broke out, he fought for the South. And he, you know, the way he looked at it, he had already done his share of killing in the Cortina Wars, and here comes another war just a few years later, and he doesn't want to kill anymore. He just wants peace.
Right.
And so he's got this religious belief. He tells himself, if I keep killing people, I'm going to go to hell.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got to serve the Confederacy in some way to where I won't go to hell. And so he serves as a Catholic priest in the Confederate Army. It's just like in the movie The Outlaw Josie Wells. The Yankees come and they try to take his family or kill his family and
right.
so forth.
Yeah.
And you hear that message in the song there.
Yeah.
So that's the story of that song.
Is there another one you want to talk to us about?
Yeah. Number 7, A Letter to the President. I'm not sure if everybody understands the message in that song. I talk about how we're no longer a republic, but we're a nationalized democracy.
Right.
And if you really think about it, the founders of America really didn't like democracy.
Sure.
Only at its smallest form. Okay, did they like democracy? But democracy now is at its greatest form. It's nationwide. You know, whatever we vote for on a national scale, it gets implemented nationwide across all states.
Yeah, all 310 million people.
And the reason why we have that is because the North won the war. When the North won the war, they defeated the United States. They defeated the ideology of the United States of America. So
that's an interesting way to look at it.
The United States was defeated. The 10th Amendment was defeated.
Yeah.
But we're still doing what we can, hopefully to bring that back. So.
Well, yeah, and then to see our people survive here in our homeland.
Right.
If people are interested in your album, how can they get a copy of this album?
They can go to my website, www.celticconfederate.com. Some people pronounce it Celtic Confederate, but they've been watching basketball too much.
Those Boston fans up there.
Yeah. I've even had one person, I don't know what they were thinking, they pronounced it Celestic. I was like, I just wanted to slap them, but anyways, CelticConfederate.com, get it right.
Yeah.
One CD, right now my price is $10 for one CD, or you can get 5 CDs or more for $7. So if you buy 5 CDs, that's $35. Shipping is free, or you can download the album for $8. I'll have more music available in the future. I hope to release 2 albums this year, maybe even 3.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
I'm working on another one of these, another Confederate album.
Nice.
And that'll be out this year, and then the acoustic experimental album I'll probably release. And if I get enough country material written, I might release a country album.
It's interesting you have the option of buying the digital version, which is very modern. That's the way a lot of people now buy their music. It's good that you have that option, and it's actually a little bit cheaper for folks.
Right. Yeah, it's $2 cheaper.
Yeah.
I don't make as much money. The people who I'm linked with that sells my download, they make $3 and I make $5. So.
Right. Well, it's very cheap regardless. I mean, either $8 or $10. That's very little.
Right. And the thing about this album is it's limited edition and it's autographed. This is limited edition because it's home recorded right here in my bedroom. Once I make the professional version of this album and some of my other albums, these home recorded albums won't be available anymore. So if you want the home recorded versions, you got to get them, pretty soon before I go to that professional studio.
Right.
But yeah, this is it's autographed, and like I said, my website is www.celticconfederate.com.
How long did it take you to put the album together, Jonathan?
Well, I'm not sure how long it took with all the time combined.
Right.
You know, I took a lot of breaks. Sometimes I wouldn't even work on it for a month. Sometimes I would work on it day and night, hours and hours and hours. But all together, this took me 2 years and 4 months to make this.
That's a major investment of time.
Right, and if you think about it, I'm only one musician. I don't have a band at the moment.
You are Celtic Confederate.
I guess I'm the band, you know.
Yeah, you played all the. You said that you played the bass on the top string of your electric guitar.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't own a bass guitar, but I had to improvise with what I had. You know, like I said, I recorded my bedroom. I don't have a huge studio. I have a small portable recorder, and so I use my electric guitar for bass. And I play a little bit of the banjo, a little bit of the dobro, the mandolin, and all these other instruments. Mainly, I'm a guitar player. And a lot of people think I'm a vocalist, a singer, but I'm not necessarily a singer. I can sing pretty decently, mainly to my music that I write. But
well, I think it works.
Yeah, it all works out, and I do a little bit of everything, and so you could only imagine how I would contribute if I were in a band with many other intelligent people. So it'd probably turn out awesome. But yeah.
All right. Do you ever perform some of these songs live for folks?
My first show is coming up April the 2nd, 2011 at the Lieutenant Colonel John W. Inzer Museum in Asheville, Alabama. It's for a bike ride to raise money for the Inzer Museum. It's an antebellum home built in 1850, purchased by Colonel Inzer after the war. There's going to be tons of bikers there, numerous bands, and I'm the first one that's going to go on stage. Hopefully it turns out well. Because I'm going to be the only one there. I don't have any band members, and I'll be up there all by myself. I've never performed in front of anybody.
Which songs are you thinking about doing?
Not any songs on this album. I've been having to write new material just to play live, you know, by myself. And so I've got this awesome song. It's a lot like this rock influenced folk music, except it's actually closer to rock this time. I've got the electric guitar in there. The song's called Raise Your Battle Flag.
Oh, nice.
And then I've got another song called Celtic Confederate. A song called Yankee Teacher. Another one called 1876. There was a lot of things that happened in the year 1876. And let's see, I can't think of any of the others. Oh, I got one called The War Continues. So yeah, each year we'll be having the bike ride and festival for the Lieutenant Colonel John W. Inzer Museum in Asheville, Alabama, and I guess I'll be playing there pretty much most every year in the next few years. Cool.
All right, man. And what's the website again?
Website is www.celticconfederate.com.
All right. And folks can go there and listen to samples of your songs too.
They can.
Yeah.
And everything on that you hear, I was playing myself. So.
Nice. Well, I appreciate you talking with us, Jonathan.
All right, I do appreciate it. Hey, I'm Jonathon Horsley of Celtic Confederate. If you like Southern heritage music, be sure to check out my website at www.celticconfederate.com.